Welcome once again to Aspire Academy. Today we are going to do another poem, Lake Isle of Innisfree. এই কবিতাটো উইলিয়াম বাটলাৰ ইয়েটছৰ দ্বাৰা লিখা আৰু এইটো কবিতা পঢ়াৰ আগতে let us see what the text actually wants us to do. অকণমান instructions আছে তোমালোকৰ কাৰণে. This well-known poem explores the poet's longing for peace and tranquility of Innisfree, a place where he spent a lot of time as a boy. This poem is a lyric. Yate duta kotha thakibo. We have to remember two things before we get into the poem. The fact that it is a poem which has been shaped by the poet's experience as a child in a particular place which is called Innisfree. Innisfree buli edokhor thai hosa hosike ase aru ei kobita to William Butler Yeatsor dara likha. So William Butler Yeats was an Irish poet and he grew up in a place, he spent his summers actually in a place called, it's a county which is called Sligo, and there is a lake, Lough Gill, where there is this small island is there, and it is about the experiences that he had as a child in Innisfree. But remember that the poem was written much later in his life when he grew up as an adult. He was educated in Dublin and London. And on a particular day in 1888, when he was, walking through the London's Fleet Street, and he was affected by the kind of noise and chaos sohoror jitu hulosthul tar hulosthule teok hoyto amoni disile hei amoni tu teok শৈশৱতে ইনিছফ্ৰীত যিখিনি শান্তিৰ সময় কটাইছিলে সেইখিনি সেই মুহূৰ্তটোত যেহেতু দুইটা খুব অপোজিট আছিলে হেতু তেওঁ মনলে আহিলে আৰু ইনিছফ্ৰী এই লেক আইল অফ ইনিছফ্ৰী কবিতাটো তাৰ পৰাই উৎপন্ন হোৱা হে কাৰণে আমি এতিয়া কবিতাটোলে যাও let us get into the poem. I will arise and go now and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin built there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, and a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. So there is this, urge. The poem opens with the urge in the speaker's mind to go away from where he is in the present. Now, gusi jam buli koise, I will arise and go now. Ekhini pra moi ator hoi jam. And where does he want to go? He wants to go to Innisfree. Innisfree le moi gusi jam, moi etiai uthim, etiai jam. আৰু তাত কি কৰিব what will he do there আমি জেনেকে ভাবু ইয়াৰ পৰা অমুকলে যাম এটা কিবা কাম আছে আমাৰ হেখিনি কৰিম ঠিক সেই ধৰণে the speaker in this poem wishes to move away from his present place location and go to Innisfree. And what will he do there? He will have a small cabin there made of clay and wattles made. Wattle to hol amar ghor bilakot gaon dekha paba tati buli koy je bahor mihi ke jeurar nisina gathi pelai ohomot ikorar beror agote asile eta tumalke hoto nejaniba ikorar beror oprot mati lepi pelai ghor banai tati buli eta koy khub ghon ghon ke bahor patol ke kami kati pelai mari di pelai tar oprot mati aru gubor eneke dhorne lepi pelai ghor banai thik hei dhorone England tut korisile. So you have clay and wattles, clay aru wattle di pelai mati aru hei tati di pelai teo mati lepa ghor etat thakibo, which is very different from the houses that London has. So he has a different sort of imagination, an imaginary landscape in Innisfree, and that imagination is actually connected to his childhood experience. Remember that. So he will go to Innisfree, he will build a small cabin. He doesn't say he needs a big house there. He will have a small cabin, the small cabin that will be made of clay and wattles. 9 bean rows will I have there. 9, why 9? 9 not a enekwa mahor kiba hari pati pelai teu tat kheti koribo. 9 perhaps indicates the the preciseness, the precision, the idea that he will need only this much. Because not yet, you will imagine it's the speaker in the poem who is disturbed by the fact of his, the present location and the disturbances of his city life, and he wants to go away to a very peaceful place where he will have a very small house, where he will grow whatever he needs to have, and that will be very limited. That is why he already has an idea. It is 9. He doesn't need hundreds and thousands and millions of, sacks of rice and grain or something like that. He will just have 9 bean rows which will supply his food, and a hive for honeybee, and a little bit of honey perhaps, and that will be sufficient for him. The whole idea is to talk about the the idea of peace, hanti, and then how much do you need. The gap between how much you need and what you have and peace, all of these are, very, very critically connected actually. The more you move towards, ambition, and the more you move towards unlimited passion for material possession, the more you will be driven away from peace. Jiman ami bostubadi hoi goi thakim, himane ami shantir পৰা আঁতৰ হৈ যাম. সেইকাৰণে ইয়েটছৰ কবিতাটো এতিয়াও খুব relevant, because he is talking about finding peace in a place called Innisfree, where he will have a very small house, where he will grow little bit of crops for him, where he will have one hive, a hive for the honeybee, and then what will he do? And live alone in the bee loud glade. This is a very beautiful visual image. Glade is an opening, is a very, very open space. It's a cleared out space. Mukoli thai dokor. Kintu he thai khini kihe poripurno kori rakhibo? Moumakhir gunjonere. So that place itself becomes an image of a very soothing, tranquil kind of sound. So there is, it is in contrast to the noise of the city or the noise of his present location. So he wants to go away to Innisfree, far away from the anarchy and chaos of city life perhaps, and then stay in Innisfree all alone. So that loneliness and alone should not be equated. Loneliness is a condition of mind, you see, and that loneliness one can feel even when one is in the company of hundreds of people. But being alone and being happy and tranquil and very, very satisfied and contented with oneself is a very high form of existence, which the speaker anticipates will happen to him in Innisfree. অকলশৰে থকা আৰু নিৰ্জনতাত থকা, মই নিজে অকলশৰীয়া অনুভৱ কৰা আৰু নিৰ্জনতাত থকা দুটা সম্পূৰ্ণ বেলেগ বস্তু. মানুহে বহুত মানুহৰ মাজত হাজাৰ হাজাৰ মানুহৰ মাজত একেলগে থাকিলেও হয়তো অকলশৰীয়া বোধ কৰিব পাৰে, নিৰ্জনতাত থাকিলেও হয়তো কিন্তু নিজৰ লগতে শান্তিত থাকাৰ এটা অনুভৱ হ'ব পাৰে. দুইটাৰে অনুভৱ কিন্তু পৃথক. সেই কথাটো ইয়াত মনত ৰাখিবা. Then in the second stanza, he says, and I shall have some peace there. It comes from here. I will live alone. এই যে alone হৈ থাকি পেলাই তেওঁ অশান্তিত থাকিব, তেওঁ বৰ কষ্ট পাইছে, মই অকলশৰীয়া, এনেকুৱা নহয়. That, that whole idea of living alone is connected to having peace. Why does he want to live alone there in Innisfree? Because he will have a small cabin, he will have a small garden, he will have one beehive, and every time that he is there in that small space, that heaven of his, he will have the sound of the bees, soothing, and then he will have peace. And I shall have some peace there. For peace comes dropping slow. This is so beautiful. Peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the veils of the morning to where the cricket sings. There is another very beautiful visual image here. You find peace dropping slow. Peace is an abstract idea. শান্তিটোক মানুহে এনেকে দেখা পোৱা বস্তু নহয়, সেইটোতো কংক্ৰিট নহয় যে 1 কেজি শান্তি দিয়া, 2 টোপাল শান্তি দিয়া, এনেকুৱা কথা নহয়. It's an experience. How do you feel? So you feel peaceful. You will be in Innisfree, and slowly you will feel that it is so peaceful. Like peace comes dropping slow, very slowly, quietly, in the tranquil moments of morning. How do we know? From the veils of the morning. Ratipuar uroni gusai. Hanti to এটোপাল দুটোপালকে নামি আহিব. তাৰ মানে এনেকুৱা এটোপাল দুটোপাল নামি অহা নহয়, যেতিয়া বেলিটো আকাশখনৰ নিয়ৰখিনি ফালি পেলাই বেলি ওলাব লাহে লাহে, প্ৰত্যেকটো মুহূৰ্ত you enjoy. That is peace. quietly, in tranquility, in serenity, that peace. So morning's veil, urani khon kihe di hobo, ratipor urani kihe di hobo pare, niore di hobo pare, mist eta thake, haze eta thake, patolia daor thakibo pare, heitu gusai jetia beli tu lahe lahe ahibo, pohor jetia ahibo, tetia যেন শান্তিও সেই ধৰণে অকণ অকণকে তেওঁৰ জীৱনলৈ আহিব to where the cricket sings. Now, hey, ৰাতিপুৱাৰ পৰা শান্তিখিনি আহি পেলাই এজেগাত আৰু শান্তি আহিলে এই 10টা বজাৰ পিছত আমাৰ শেষ আৰু এনেকুৱাও নহয় Innisfree is a place which is continuously peaceful, which has a constant sense of tranquility. So it will begin in the morning, quietly it will come, it will enter into his life and sensations to where the cricket sings. Cricket hol uisiringa. আৰু উইচিৰিঙা বিলাকে ৰাতি তোমালকে যদি খাৰ পাই পেলাই শুনা এতিয়া চহৰতটো শুনা নাপায় গাঁৱত হয়তো এতিয়া শুনা পায় নে নাপায় ঠিক মোৰ আইডিয়া নাই আগতে আমি শুনিছিলো উইচিৰিঙা বিলাকে ৰাতি যেতে জুনাক ৰাতি হৈ থাকে ফৰিং ফুটা জুনাক বুলি কয় আৰু তেতে উইচিৰিঙাৰ মাতটো তোমালকে মেটেৰিয়েলত পাবা মই এটা লিংক শেয়াৰ কৰিছো শুনিব পাৰা তাত নিৰ্জন ৰাতিত উইচিৰিঙাৰ মাত that is very peaceful, you know. It gives you a sense of a different kind of experience, a kind of serenity which you will never find when you are standing in the midst of a whole lot of noise and all of that. So his whole idea of peace is a constant kind of an experience. It doesn't end with the morning. It will get into, it will spill over into the night. Okay, গটিকে ৰাতিপুৱাতে আহি পেলাই দুপৰীয়া হল আৰু শান্তিৰ সময়খিনি গলগে আকৌ কাইলে ৰাতিপুৱা হ'ব এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ কথা নহয় এগুটেই শান্তিৰ অনুভৱটো তেওঁ নিৰ্জনতা যেটো কৰিব হেতু তেওঁ সম্পূৰ্ণ ৰূপে তেওঁৰ হৈতে অনবৰতে থাকিব it will be a constant companion from the morning into the midnight যেতিয়া তেওঁ উইচিঙাৰ হে মাতু শুনিব তেতিয়াও তেওঁ হে শান্তিৰ অনুভৱেই কৰিব পাৰিব There midnights all a glimmer. তেওঁ ইয়াত থিয় হৈহে আছে হৈহে ভাবি আছে Innisfree কথা তাত কি হ'ব তাত Innisfree midnights all a glimmer. ফৰিং ফুটা জুনাক বুলি যে এইমাত্ৰ কলো হেতু কেতিয়াবা ৰাতি থিয় হৈ পেলাই নিৰ্জনতাত জুনাক ৰাতি অকলে চাবা খুব এটা বেলেগ ধৰণৰ ফিলিং হয় আৰু এতিয়া আৰু হ'বলৈ ধৰিব শৰৎ কালত হেতু আৰু সাংঘাতিক এটা বেলেগ ধৰণৰ তাৰ এটা সেন্সেশন থাকে আৰু অসমীয়া সাহিত্যত হেবিলাক লৈ পেলাই বহুত কথা লিখা থাকে গানত থাকে হেবিলাক কবিতাত থাকে সাধু কথাত থাকে there midnights all a glimmer because the stars will shine the moon will be there and it will be a very faint peaceful pale eta puhor thakibo tat hetu beleg dhoroner eta puhor ar hei puhor to hei glimmering jitu light hobo hetue shanti dibo and noon a purple glow ar duporia samoyat why purple is a color which is understood to be very majestic royal purple to bengunia rosmi hetu keta kiba rajokiyo dhoroner tar logot eta association thake gotike jetia akashkhon sampurno rupe poriskar akashon beli toe jetia duporia samoyat khub sundor ke tar puhor dibo hetu eta rajokiyo tar jitu পুহৰ তাৰ যিটো শক্তি তাৰ যিটো জ্যোতি হেবুৰ পাৰ্পল বুলি কৈছে that is majestic কিন্তু তাতো এই চহৰত আমি যিটো অশান্তি পাওঁ হেতু নাপায় খুব সুন্দৰ কাৰণ তাত একদম প্ৰকৃতি অতি শান্ত সৌম্য তাত বেলিটো যেতিয়া আকাশত মুধছত থাকিব আৰু সাংঘাতিক পোহৰেৰে হেতুৱে জিলিকি থাকিব তাত অশান্তি নহয় মানুহৰ শান্তিয়ে হ'ব হেকাৰণে that is if you look at the poem you will see that there is this spilling over of time and it's a constant e gote ghori tu jeneke onaborte soli thake yetsor kalponar samoy khiniu sei dhorone goise yat kuno dhoroner bhag hoi joa nai midnight ot enekwa kosto pam duporia samoyt bahut rod ulabo kosto hobo no this whole idea of peace you see and I shall have some peace there for peace comes dropping slow in the morning into the midnight at evening at noon time and then an evenings full of the linnet's wings this is also another very beautiful image okay visual image akashot jetia bogoli bilak uri jaye ekeloge ajikali dekha paine na pai na janu jakpati bogoli uri gole ami eneke kobo paru bogoli pakhir akash ওদিকে কারণ আকাশখন বগলী পাখিয়ে আবৰি পেলাইছে ঠিক সেই ধৰণে লিনেট এবিধ সৰু গান গোৱা চৰাই ইংলেণ্ডত ইউৰোপিয়ান কান্ট্ৰি বিলাকত পায় গতিকে লিনেট বিলাক সেই সময়ত ইভিনিং হৈছে নহয় চৰাইবিলাক ঘৰলৈ ঘূৰি যাব নিজৰ বাহলে যাব so the birds are getting back to their nests so when they are getting back to their nest they are flying in flocks জাকত উৰিছে আৰু জাকত উৰুতে গোটেই আকাশখন যেন লিনেট চৰাইৰ পাখিৰে ভৰি গৈছে the sky seems as if it is filled with the wings of linnets and that is why this is a beautiful visual image which talks about evenings full of linnets wings so you have slabs what happens in the noon what happens in midnight what happens in evening what happens in morning so the entire day and night 24 hours you have this whole sensation of peace flowing into you and you are sort of absorbing all peace and that is why he says I have to go now I will go to Innisfree and this is what I will do and I live there making a small cabin I'll have small garden I'll have a hive for honeybee and I'll just relish my peace there okay the last stanza I will arise and go now so there he's imagining and that imagination reaches a culmination when he feels that he should there's an immediacy now ekini kotha kalpana kori nai moi etia koriboi lagibo I have to go okay there is a sense of urgency there is a sense of immediacy I will arise and go now a2 actually this is an allusion to a certain part in Bible I think in Luke chapter 16 lines 18 if I'm not mistaken I have given it in your material it is a reference it is an allusion to Bible okay I'll go and I'll arise and go now to Father to God so there is this urgency like the human soul wants to go and sort of merge in with the divine similarly the speaker here wants to move away from the present space place location into Innisfree which he feels will be delivering to him a complete sense of peace that will be constant in his life and that is why there is this immediacy because he is not happy with what he has now ei je teo bortoman ji thait ase ji dhornor teo anubhob hoise jibon loi teo hoyto hetu loi pele sukhi nohoy gotike teo bhabise Innisfree le gole mur sampurno gote jibon loi anubhobe holoni hoi jabo karon tat সকলো সময়তে মই শান্তিত থাকিব পাৰিম so there is this urgency মই এতিয়াই যাব লাগিব I will arise and go now for always night and day এই যে continuation to soasun second stanza আছে হেতু third stanza আকৌ আহিছে repeat হৈছে for always night and day তেওঁ নিজৰ মনটো তেওঁ যেটো কল্পনা কৰিছে Innisfree will have moments of peace spilling from one moment to the other coming from morning to midnight to evening and noon and all there is this whole seamless experience of peace and tranquility and serenity that is also there in him now that imaginary Innisfree that whole the condition of mind that he carries within him regarding Innisfree it is there in him continuously enekwa nohoy je teo okol okoman samoy montu beya lagise Innisfree le jabo pora haten bhal asile enekwa nohoy teo onorgol teor monot চিন্তাৰ যেটো তেওঁৰ নৈ বইছে সেই নৈখনত অনবৰতে Innisfree তা মানে চলিয়ে আছে হেকাৰণে কৈছে I will arise and go now for always night and day I hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore তেওঁ শুনাও পাইছে কিমান মানে strongly কিমান শক্তিশালী ভাবে Innisfree তেওঁৰ মনত সোমাই গৈছে হেতু তোমালকে নিজেই কল্পনা কৰিব পাৰিবা you can imagine a thing that you want and you can almost when you want something very very sort of with all your heart and soul you can almost imagine and feel that it is there in front of you and you can hear it you can sense it see how will you feel kiba ta khabole khub mon goise hetu imagine korote bhuku jodi lagi ase mukhor paniye ulai jabo কারণ হেতু তুমি টেস্টটো তুমি সেই সময়তে তাৰ সোৱাদটো কেনেকুৱা হৈছে কল্পনা কৰি তোমাৰ গোটেই শৰীৰে হেতু ৰেসপন্ড কৰিব ঠিক সেই ধৰণে তেওঁক স্পিকাৰক ইয়াতে Innisfree এনে ধৰণে তেওঁক মোটিভেট কৰিছে যে তেওঁ সেই লেকটোৰ সেই আমি আৰম্ভণিতে কৈ আহা সৰু হ্ৰদ এটা আছে তাতে সেই হ্ৰদটোৰ পানীখিনিয়ে যেন শব্দ কৰিছে তেওঁ শুনা পাইছে হ্ৰদৰ পানীখিনিয়ে খুব মিহিকে সাগৰৰ ঢৌ নিচিনা নহয় remember that everything will have a different sound when you talk of rain like you have the gentle showers of spring then it is gentle but when you have storms that is different okay so when you have the waters making noise against the shore if it is a sea if it is an ocean that sound will be very very hard or mighty but here it is a small lake the lake waters doesn't have that much of force nevertheless it comes and strikes against the shore ei je mihi mihi dhokhinie ahi pelai khub sundor ke kumol ke parot ahi khunda marise aru hei khunda tu jitu shobdo hoise hei shobdo tu swa water lapping with low sounds etu এটা poetic device হয় এটো onomatopoeia বুলি কয় অসমীয়াত আমি এবিলাকক অনুৰূপ শব্দ বুলি কওঁ যেনেকৈ আমি কওঁ ঘড়ীৰ টিক টিক শব্দ যেনেকৈ কওঁ কাউৰীয়ে কা কা কৰিছে ঠিক শব্দটোক আমি হয়তো অনুকৰণ কৰিবলৈ বিচাৰিছো তাৰ এটা অনুৰূপ শব্দ দিছো যাতে মনলৈ সেইটোৰ গোটেই অনুভূতিটো আহে সেই ধৰণে the poet is imagining that he will go to Innisfree and he can actually by night and day all moments throughout his existence in a different place away from Innisfree he can actually hear the soft gentle waters of the lake coming and brushing against the shore okay while I stand see this is the last second line and the third stanza finally when we come to know where exactly the speaker is okay while I stand on the roadway or on the pavements gray this gray is in contrast to purple you see this gray is something which is gray মানে সাহিত্যত এনেকুৱা হয় এটোটো বিজ্ঞানৰ নিচিনাকে নকৰে মানুহে সাহিত্যত কল্পনাৰ কথা বহুত থাকিব কবিতাত বহুত কল্পনা থাকিব আৰু ৰং বিলাকৰো কিছুমান কাল্পনিক অনুভূতিৰ লগত মিলোৱা থাকে পাৰ্পল টু যি ধৰণে অলপ আগতে কৈছো গ্লোইং সোৱা আৰু গ্লিমাৰ এইবোৰ সকলোবোৰ খুব পজিটিভ এবিলাকৰ এটা কিছুমান ধনাত্মক তাৰ অৰ্থ ওলাব পাৰি পাৰ্পল টু যি ধৰণে আমি কলো ৰাজকীয় তাৰ ঠিক কন্ট্ৰাষ্ট হল গ্ৰে is a color which is associated with gloom you see gray is never when you say you are very happy you do not say you are feeling gray or something like that so gray pavement and road these are concrete structures these are not there in Innisfree you see এই structure বিলাক চহৰত থাকিব এই structure বিলাক এইবোৰ এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ বাট পথৰ কথা তেওঁ কৈছে ইয়াত যেতিয়া মই ৰৈ আছো while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement gray এই যে মই এই কাঠৰ নিচিনা কঠুৱা ঠাইত থিয় হৈ আছো অনবৰতে মই শুনি থাকো কি শুনো মই I hear the soft waters of the lake lapping against the shore when I'm standing on this hard place when I'm standing on this gray place which is a difficult place for existence and that is why we understand that he wants to go to Innisfree okay I hear it in the deep heart's core where does he hear it's not somewhere from the the loudspeakers that somebody is playing that and he is listening no it is constantly there inside his heart so here you have this understanding that the speaker is thoroughly immersed in the idea of Innisfree why because he is in quest of peace he needs peace and why does he need peace he needs peace because he is standing here in the pavement gray perhaps peace is not found here and that is why suddenly as I had told you মই আৰম্ভণিতে কৈছিলো তেওঁ লণ্ডনৰ 1888 চনত ফ্লিট ষ্ট্ৰীট বুলি বাট এটাৰে খুস্কাহি গৈ থাকোতে হঠাৎ তেওঁ সেই সময়ত যিখিনি তেওঁ দেখিলে এই ৰাস্তাটোত সেই পথটোত দোকান পোহাৰ মানুহ অহা যোৱা গাড়ী শব্দ মটৰৰ শব্দ আটাইবিলাক বস্তুৱে তেওঁ তৎক্ষণাত তেওঁ যে শৈশৱতে Innisfree সেই ঠাই দুখৰত তেওঁ সময় কটাইছিলে সেইটোৰ স্মৃতিলে তেওঁক লৈ গল আৰু ইমিডিয়েটলি তেওঁৰ মনলৈ এই গোটেই ধাৰণাটো আহিলে আৰু সেই ধৰণে কবিতাটোৰ উৎপত্তি হল so once we get to know the context সেইকাৰণে কবিতা পঢ়িলে when you are doing poetry if you know the context it becomes clearer to you Innisfree can also be understood as a symbol it can also be the whole idea of peace symbolized through this place called Innisfree. Like if you talk about your Hepa or Majuli or something like that, Majuli is such a dear place to us, and it is such a, it's a what should we say? It is a wealth for us. So when you say Majuli, you have certain associations. Similarly, Innisfree has that association. So once we get through the poem and reach here, we understand that not only the poet is is experiencing this whole sense of peace inside him night and day. Not only does he hear, does he listen, does he imagine what Innisfree would be like, but also his very heart is carrying within him this whole sensation of peace and tranquility and serenity that Innisfree is associated with. Okay, and that is why this poem is titled Lake Isle of Innisfree. What does that image create in him? That is the whole theme of the poem. Okay, so we will stop here, and the discussions and the explanations regarding the poem will be provided in your material. And I thank you for being here with us in Aspire. Thank you.